Hello everyone, my name is Chuck Lynch, and today we're going to go over a review of the lesson we did for the model lesson. To start, we're going to go to Lynch.technology, where the lesson is hosted. Make sure you type that in as singular, not plural. We're going to go to the Newburgh model lesson link and scroll down to view some of the steps. As we went over, there is a link for Google Forms, our sample questions, a pre-made example, and where we're going to post it to Blogger. Also at the top here is an ask for future help. So if it's something that didn't get explained today or you felt like could have gone further, or something you're just curious about, a general question for Google Forms, you can click on here and put in a request or some information, and it sends me an email right away and I'll answer to you promptly. So our first steps here. So we're going to go to Google Forms, either by clicking one of these links or typing in this address here. We're going to sign in if prompted. And we're going to set up our first form by going to the Templates section, scrolling down to the Education section, and clicking on Assessment and open it. So let's do that now. Since I'm already signed in, it brought me right to my main post for here. I'm going to click on Template Gallery and scroll down to Education and find Assessment. If this is a form you're using a lot, it's going to use also here and you recently used, but it always lives down here in Education if you can't find it. I'm going to click and open that. To keep everything the same from today's lesson, I'm going to go up here and click on Assessment and change it to Lynch Model Lesson, and I'm just going to add Review since we're in the review phase of this. And for right now, I'm just going to delete this. This is a spot where we're going to have our students' names, an email, which I'm going to take out for now because we're going to be adding it in a different way, where we're going to require every form to accept an email for a student. So that would just be a duplicate. And then we have our quiz questions down below. Before we go further, I'm going to go over at the top right where it says More. It gives us an option, first off, to make a copy. So if you are creating an assessment that you're going to use for multiple classes or multiple sessions, and it's something that you like that you've created and you don't want to have all of the sessions that you have answering the same document, you can just make a copy and add a different name to the top so you can keep it ordered that way. For right now, we're going to go to Preferences. These are preferences that are going to stay with us for each Google form going forward. So we always wanted to collect email addresses, so we have the students' emails. We're going to make all of our questions required, and default quiz point value I'm going to keep at 1, and I click Save. See how we have all our changes saved in Drive here? This is going to auto-save as we keep going. What we have here is some sample questions that we have already from our template. You're going to notice that the answer key has 1 point, it's required, and it's multiple choice. You can toggle that right here. We're going to go over the first 4. And you can add more questions here. And it'll keep the same preferences that we found right here. You notice this one has correct answer and has a check mark next to it. I'm going to go over that more in a few moments. Second one we have is checkboxes. Similar, but we have multiple correct answers. Third one is a short answer. So it allows for a short amount of space. And this is just a title section. It also works right here. This one is if you were to give a prompt before asking for a question. For our needs, we're going to delete this one by clicking the little trash can. Okay. Now that we have that set up, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change it with some of our sample questions. I'm going to go back to the page. You can either click one of these links and then it'll open up. I have one for each one. We have math, English, science, and social studies. First one we're going to use is for multiple choice. So I'm going to copy this by selecting it. I'm going to tap on Control and C on my keyboard to copy it. And go back to our new Google form. Our first question, I'm going to click on it, see how it becomes selected. If it doesn't the first time, you can always backspace it across. I'm going to press Control and V to add it in. Notice how it adds a suggested corrected answer of 1787. The Constitution obviously wasn't ratified or signed in 1787, so that on our part would be an incorrect answer. What I'm going to do is remove all but one of these by clicking the X, and go in and do the same thing and copy our answers. When they're on top of each other like this, again using Control and C, when they're on top of each other like this, it's going to be easy to paste it in, as so, by pressing Control and V. If they were side by side, they're going to be all in the same line, and that's not something we want. To change the answer key, since we now don't have any correct answers, I'm going to click on Answer Key, click on 1776, keep it at 1 point. You can add more feedback if you want, and then I'm going to go back to Edit Question so we have the same view. For the second question, I'm going to go in and add my second question, which are the following are parts of an animal cell structure. Control and C to copy it after it's selected, paste it in. I'm going to keep all but one. Go get my answers, Control C to copy. And paste it in. I'm going to go to my answer key. We know that mitochondria and vacuole are parts of the cell wall, or parts of the cell. Cell wall and ectoplasm are not. And since this has 2 correct answers, I'll make this 2 points. Go back to Edit Question. Our third question over here is a math question. What is 6 times 7? You'll notice here I have several correct answers. I'm going to show what that is in a moment. Let me go in here and paste it in. What is 6 times 7? I'm going to go into my answer key. I'm going to make it 1 point. Because this is a template, it didn't automatically change it over. I'm going to make the correct answer 42. If you haven't stated that you want the answers to be in number or word form, you can just do 42 or 42 just to be safe if you are looking for one specific answer. And then you can mark all other answers incorrect. And go back to Edit Question. Our fourth question is going to be more of an essay format. I'm going to go in and again copy this line, asking about a novel for an English class, and paste it in. Our answer key, I'm going to make this 4 points. And here's where we can add some answer feedback. We can say this will be graded shortly after teacher review. When it comes up like this, if you have multiple choice questions and paragraph questions like this, it is going to have, it'll show us the student not receiving that point right away. So we don't want that to happen. So we want to give them a little fair warning that their answer isn't wrong, we just haven't gotten to grade it yet. It's not an automatic option. And save. You can see we have our total points is now 8 for this form. We're going to change a few settings now. We're going to click on the gear on the top right, and it's going to come up with our general settings. This is more for just this form. So we want to collect email addresses because we want to know what students are finishing the exam. We don't want to select response receipts because we don't want the students to have an extra copy of their assignment. We don't want them sharing it to their friends or what have you. Limit to 1 response, because otherwise students will be able to put in multiple responses. We don't want them to be able to edit after each submit, because then they could go look up the answers and see summary charts and text responses. These are useful for surveys, but for what we need right now as an exam, we're not going to use those. So we're going to leave those things unchecked. Our presentation, we're going to leave things as it is. If you wanted to make a new message to your students after they submit, you could put it right there. If it was an exam in the classroom, you could do shuffle question order, so none of the questions will be in the same order, and show progress bar if you have different sections. And we're going to leave off the show link to submit another response. This is where we can toggle what the quiz acts like after it's submitted. So we're going to make sure that this is a quiz and that's toggled so it's colored. We're going to grade it so immediately after each submission. If you leave on later after manual review, after you go in and grade all the paragraphs or grade all each sections, it'll prompt you to email all the students their grades. So you wouldn't be seeing a grade or a partial grade until you release everything. We don't want them to see missed questions or correct answers because other students might be taking the test, but we'll allow them to see the point values because it's helpful that way. We're going to click Save, and you'll notice it shifted a little. It now has email addresses at the top, and it's going to ask the student to put in a valid email address as well. The last part here, to send it out to your students, we can send it out to the students via an email through Google Classroom, which would be something like class and then at Newburgh Central School District, however the Google Drives are, how the Google Classrooms are set up. But for right now, we're going to use a link. I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to go over and paste it into the Blogger in the comments section. I'm going to give it a Control V and paste it in. And I'm going to publish it. Doing it this way, students would be able to see it immediately. Or if you're doing this at night, students would be able to see their homework assignments on the blog post, and it's a good way for students to have a good base camp for that. Some of the other things we have to finish off here is our responses. In the responses section, we see that it's accepting responses. We have it set up for different things. So I'm going to open up my sample one for you, pre-existing, pre-made. I'm going to edit it since it's on my account here. You can see we have 6 responses, and it's set up by summary, question, and individual. For me to do this, I had to go in and turn off the email collection to create a good tally. So you can see the average score was 7.33 out of 8 points. Our median was 8, and our range was between 6 and 8. It gives us our student names, a bulk of each question and which ones were answered, whether correct or not, and in which ways, and then examples of what would be in the Hobbit for if it was to be a full essay I typed in. We can also sort by question or parse through each one. It also gives the answer key there in case you needed to check and change answers. And per individual. The score was not released on this because I didn't put in an email address originally. If there is something that happens that students are saying that one question is correct, oh no, why shouldn't it have been correct? You can go in and you can change, you can give them a point value here to replace that and not change the rest of the examples. Also, if it was something that way, you can go into questions again and change the answer key, and it would automatically update that those questions were correct as well. To see this all in a Google Sheet, we can click on this green icon here, and it opens up the Google Sheet that collects all of our information. So we have a timestamp of when the students finish this examination, the emails of each student, again this wasn't put in just for sample reasons, the score for each student, their names, and then their answers. And you can see this all in a little different view if you need to click and drag it around. So thank you for watching. That is our quick go over of how to use Google Forms. Some of the other things that we can do with it is beginning of the year get to know you forms, surveys, exit tickets for videos, science lab inputs. You can set it up to have the scientific method and put it all in so students would be able to hierarch their science labs. Some creative writing with create your own stories, and community data analyzing. It's an interesting point that some schools have started sending it out and trying to get information from a broader population, either in elementary schools where students want to know what the community's favorite color is, to everything that could be done in participation in government and economics, where they would maybe survey their local town board for some answers. And that you can do anonymously. Right here, please take the exit ticket for this exam. It opens up here. Some more resources to keep looking. Some news articles. These are a couple news articles that show that the settings for Google Forms are going to be set up to be performed in a lockdown browser. And what that does is it allows the exam to go on, but it doesn't allow students to open up any other tabs and to look for the answers that way. So gives more validity to an examination on the computer that way because it's a little safer. This is the PDF version of the instructions if we went over. A little step-by-step guide. And again, some other ideas. This is where the video is going to be that I'm recording currently, so you can watch this and go over it again. And this is a link to my main website, charleslynchonline.com, which I'll be moving more lessons over this way as we progress. And this is a professional development I set up for teachers to go through or even students to go through. And it goes through the different steps of how to use a Google form, the different lengths it takes, some surveys, and that way it goes over the long and short of it and how to create a blogger if needed. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Again, my name is Chuck Lynch. You can email me cslynch42@gmail.com or you can contact me right here, and I'll get back to you shortly. Thank you for watching.